Morning came in fragments, a pale strip of light under a bruised sky. The sea still heaving as if it had not quite decided the night was finished with them. The storm had withdrawn, but it left its fingerprints everywhere. Kelp snagged on ropes, sand packed hard against their boots, and a faint metallic tang in the air that made Jihye think of teeth. Raptor moved through the ruined camp with the stiff focus of someone trying not to directly look at loss. Where his crates had been stacked in neat rows, there was now only scattered debris and a gouge in the sand where the tide had stolen what it liked. A glass jar crunched under his heel, and he flinched as if it had been bone. Joaquin and Caleb helped without being asked. They had become practiced at packing quickly, quietly, with the sort of efficiency that came from knowing you might have to run again before the sun went down. Raphael watched the shoreline more than the supplies, eyes narrowing at every shift in the waves, as if expecting the sea itself to change its mind. Jihye sat on a low driftwood log and tried to breathe past the ache in her ribs. The wrongness in her bones had not entirely faded. Her shoulders still held an echo of wings that had not fit her. Her mouth tasted faintly of salt and old panic. She kept one hand pressed to the amulet beneath her coat, feeling its steady warmth like an animal curled against her skin. Esther Trick stood a short distance away, half in the wash of retreating foam, half on the darkened sand. In daylight, his human shape seemed no less unsettling, only clearer. His hair was red, but not a soft red of a mortal man. It was vivid, almost unnatural, and it fell around his head in a loose, jagged halo that reminded Jihye of the frill that had ringed its leviathan form. His skin caught the light strangely. Fine scales shimmered along his throat, down the backs of his hands, and at the edges of his cheekbones, as if the sea had not quite agreed to let him fully be human. Raptor kept stealing glances at him while pretending he was not. "You're taking your time," Esther Trix observed, voice calm. Raptor's hands tightened around a length of rope. "I'm salvaging what I can." "You are mourning," Esther Trix corrected. Raptor did not deny it. He crouched beside a battered metal case, one corner dented, and ran his fingers over the clasp as if touching it might undo the sea's theft. "That suit," Caleb said quietly, watching. "Is that for diving?" Raptor nodded, swallowing once. "Deep diving. I spent years assembling it, a patchwork of designs, some mine, some borrowed from men who died before they finished theirs. It's slow, it's heavy, and it's the only reason I've seen what I've seen down there." He hesitated, then added more softly, "I thought I would use it to prove something, to bring back evidence, to make people listen." Joaquin looked towards the water. "Now you have met your evidence." Raptor's mouth twitched, humorless. "Yes, and it is talking back." Esther Trix's gaze fell to Joaquin and then away again. "If you continue staring at the horizon as if it might apologize, you will miss what is in front of you," he said. Joaquin's expression remained polite, but his posture did not soften. "Prefer to keep my threats where I can see them." "Wise," Esther Trix said, and the word sounded like approval rather than an insult. Raphael approached at last, robe gone now, his familiar cloak pulled tight. He stopped beside Jihye, his presence steady. "We move on foot," he said, not as a question. Esther Trix nodded. "A while yet." Caleb frowned. "Why? We have horses." "You have horses," Esther Trix corrected, "and I have a sea that does not welcome me near the Vale. The Lurines have laid their magic thick on the water. Barriers, currents that bite, wards that feel like hooks in the flesh. Creatures of the deep who would defy them do not drift close. We come by land until the boundary is thin enough that I can pass without being torn apart." Raptor's eyes widened slightly. "They can do that?" "The Lurines are not a village of pretty tied singers," Esther Trix replied dryly. "They are an old power with old paranoia. You will remember that if you survive meeting them." The final word sat heavily. Survive. They packed what remained. Raphael took stock of the supplies with quick precision. Joaquin checked the horses, then after a brief exchange of looks with Raphael, began leading them inland along a safer track, one that paralleled the coast rather than hugging it. Raptor, still quiet, rolled his diving suit piece by piece with near reverence, drying each segment carefully before folding it. It was an awkward thing, layers of reinforced fabric and metal braces, helmet rings and weighted boots. Every buckle he fastened seemed to anchor him back into himself. Jihye watched him. She recognized the ritual. It was the same way she cleaned her knives when she could not clean her thoughts. When at last they set out, the air felt different. The storm had scrubbed the sky clean and left behind a sharp clarity. The sea lay to their right, still restless but no longer furious. To their left, the land rolled low and green, dotted with scrub and the occasional stubborn tree that had learned to bend rather than break. Estratrix walked ahead of them with unhurried confidence, as if he knew the shape of every step. He moved like someone used to water, weight distributed differently, balance too perfect sometimes. Jihye caught him, glancing at the sea as if listening to it. When he did, his eyes seemed less violet and more black. Raptor walked near Caleb, still protective of his remaining equipment. Caleb, for his part, kept trying to offer small kindnesses, asking practical questions about the suit, about the creatures Raptor had studied, and about the currents. It was a way to fill the silence that might otherwise swallow them. Joaquin stayed close to Jihye as promised, not gripping her, not crowding her, simply there. His presence was a steady line, a reminder that she was not walking alone into whatever came. Raphael walked slightly behind, gaze shifting between them all, thoughts clearly working. After a while, Jihye found herself studying Estratrix's hands. The scales caught sunlight in delicate flashes. His fingers were long, and his nails were faintly pointed. Not sharp enough to be claws, but not wholly human either. She wondered what it had felt like to turn from something vast into something shaped like a man, to fold an ocean creature down into bones made for land. The question came out before she could stop it. "Does it hurt?" she asked. Estratrix glanced back, curious. "What?" "When you transform," Jihye said, voice careful, "does it hurt to become smaller?" For a moment he simply looked at her, not with cruelty, not with pity, but with a kind of measured interest, as if she had presented him with a puzzle he did not expect to find on the shore. "No," he said finally, "it does not." "How?" Jihye's brow furrowed. "I am what I am," Estratrix replied, as if that were explanation enough. "My body does not argue with itself." Jihye felt the words land like a stone. Her own transformations had always been violent. Bone shifting, skin tearing in invisible ways, muscles re-threading with pain that she had learned to hide behind clenched teeth. Even her fox, the most natural of her forms, had never been entirely gentle. And lately the dragon had been worse, not only painful but contested, as if something inside her resented the shape she chose and wanted to choose for her. Estratrix watched her face, and after a pause that felt deliberate, spoke again. This time his voice had no mockery in it. "It is often painful in life," he said, "when we try to deny who we are." Jihye's throat tightened. She looked away, focusing on the path, but the sentence followed her like a shadow. Deny who we are. She did not know who she was. That was the problem. The group walked on. The closer they drew to the veil, the stranger the air became. It was subtle at first, a faint pressure behind the ears, like the beginning of a headache. Then it grew into a low hum that Jihye could feel in her teeth. The sea wind carried it, threading through the air as close as if the sound lived inside the salt itself. Raptor noticed it too. He slowed, eyes narrowing. Do you hear that? Caleb nodded uncertainly. It feels like singing? It's not singing, Joaquin murmured. It's warding. Raphael's gaze lifted ahead. We're nearing their boundary. The land here flattened fully. Cliffs gone now, replaced by a wide coastal stretch where the sea lay almost level with the earth. Dunes rose in pale ridges. Beyond them, in the far distance, the world shimmered strangely, as if heat was rising off water that could have been cold. Jihye realized with a jolt that she could see it now. The Vale of the Lurines. Not a city, not exactly. More a distortion of reality. A place where the horizon bent slightly wrong, where light behaved as though it followed rules older than the sun. Estetrix stopped. The group halted with him. He turned, eyes scanning them one by one, lingering on Jihye a fraction longer than the rest. We camp outside, he said, tonight. Raphael frowned. We could reach them by dusk. And walk into their threshold without a plan? Estetrix asked. Do you want to die tired or die prepared? Caleb swallowed. Raptor shifted uncomfortably. Estetrix continued, voice steady. The Lurines do not like outsiders. They like unplanned outsiders even less. A no from them is often terminal. Their mercy is not soft. You will need a plan you can hold to and faces that know their roles. Jihye felt her pulse pick up. The thought of meeting the Lurines had always been a distant goal on the horizon. Now it was close enough to taste, and that made it suddenly real. Real enough that her fear began to take shape. Raphael nodded once, conceding. Then we camp. They found a sheltered hollow between the dunes, where scrub grew as thick enough to break the wind. Joaquin set snares with practiced hands, then returned to help Caleb pitch the small tents. Raphael kept the fire low, shielded, not out of fear of being seen by mortals, but out of respect for the boundary that hummed nearby. Raptor sat close to his equipment, still quiet, as if the sea had taken more than his tools last night. As evening settled, Estetrix sat apart from them, gaze fixed on the shimmering distance. The light caught his scales, making them glimmer like fish under the moonlight. He looked almost beautiful in a way that made Jihye uneasy. Raptor, after a long silence, cleared his throat. Have you ever met the Lurines? Estetrix did not look at him at first. When he did, his expression had shifted. The faint sharpness softened into something older. Yes, he said. Once. Raptor leaned forward slightly, drawn in despite himself. When I was a child, Estetrix replied. My mother fled to their waters for safety. Jihye's attention sharpened. Even Joaquin looked up. Estetrix's gaze remained on the veil. She shielded me from the deep. She ran until she found the Lurines' boundary, and she begged. They listened. His mouth tightened slightly. They agreed to hide us. For a cost, Raphael said softly, as if he already knew the answer. Estetrix nodded. For a cost. Jihye felt a chill run through her. A leviathan needing to flee for safety was not a small thing. It suggested threats that lived far below human understanding. For a heartbeat, she almost asked what hunted them. What could frighten something like Estetrix's mother? Then she remembered what she had become in the storm, and she thought better than to ask. If she pressed too hard, she might not like the answers. Or worse, she might recognize them. They ate in quiet. Simple food. Salted meat, bread, whatever had survived the storm and their travel. The air hummed faintly, like a distant choir singing through stone. When bowls were cleared, Raphael shifted closer to the fire and spoke with the tone he used when he was organizing something dangerous. We need roles, he said. Clear ones. Estetrix watched without comment, but his posture suggested approval. Raphael looked at Raptor first. You do not cross the boundary with us. Raptor bristled. Why not? Because you are the most obviously human, Joaquin said, blunt but not unkind, and because your interest in them is academic. The Illyrians will not appreciate curiosity that smells like entitlement. Caleb nodded reluctantly. We cannot risk offending them before we even speak. Raptor's jaw tightened, but he held it. He'd been offered survival, not pride. Raphael continued. Once we cross, you go to the waterfront and prepare a sea route out. Something you can manage alone. No human crew, no local interference. Raptor blinked. You want me to steal a boat? I want you to secure an exit, Raphael corrected. If the Illyrians decide we are a problem, our best escape is the sea. Estatrix has more power there than any of us. If we need to run, we run toward water, not away from it. Estatrix's lips curved faintly, almost amused. Sensibly put. Raphael looked to Joaquin. You stay with Jihye. Joaquin nodded at once. That was already decided. Jihye's stomach tightened. Part of her hated being treated like a volatile weapon. Part of her knew it was necessary. Raphael looked at Caleb. You go with Raptor, secure supplies, and help him prepare. You are quick, and you are better at calming people than any of us. If you must talk your way past questions, you will do it. Caleb swallowed, then nodded. All right. And I, Raphael said, will do the speaking. Jihye lifted her gaze. Because of your people? Raphael inclined his head slightly. The Arisen have history with the Illyrians. It's not warm history, but it's mostly respectful. They know what I am. That may buy us a breath before they decide what to do with us. Estatrix leaned forward slightly. Do not rely on their respect. They are not sentimental. Raphael met his gaze. I never do. The plan settled into place. It was not comforting, but it was structure. And structure was something they could cling to. Jihye felt her shoulders loosened by a fraction. Not because she felt safe, but because she felt less lost. As the fire burned low and the tents were prepared, Raptor finally spoke again, voice quieter. If you do not return, he said, what then? Raphael's answer was immediate. Then you leave. You take the sea route and you go. You tell no one what you saw and you do not chase leviathans for a while. Survive. Raptor's mouth twitched. You do not know me very well. Raphael's eyes narrowed. I know enough. One by one, they retreated to their tents. Caleb lingered for a moment beside Jihye, looking as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he only reached out and squeezed her shoulder lightly. You did not choose this, he murmured. Remember that. Then he was gone. Jihye lay down, cloak pulled tight, listening to the night. The sea was quieter here, but the hum of the boundary remained, woven through everything. Joaquin's breathing was steady in the tent beside hers. Raphael's presence was a silent weight beyond that, awake even when he tried to sleep. Jihye's hand drifted to the amulet. It was warm, warmer than it should have been. Not merely warmed by her body heat, but alive with a faint, pulsing radiance that seeped into her palm. She could feel a soft vibration against her skin, almost like humming. The sound was not in the air, it was inside her, almost as if it was pleased. Her throat tightened. She closed her fingers around it, wanting to smother the warmth, wanting to demand answers from an object that had never spoken to her in words, only in pressure and heat and instinct. Outside, the boundary's hum rose and fell like tide song. Somewhere beyond it, the Illyrians waited, old and sharp and not inclined to kindness. Jihye stared into the dark and tried to will her heartbeat into calm. As sleep began to take her, unease crept through her like cold water seeping into cloth. Not fear of the Illyrians, not fear of Valerian or the cultists, or even Esmeralda. Something else. A sense, faint but undeniable, that the amulet's warmth was not comfort, it was anticipation. and whatever lay beyond the boundary was not the only thing.